Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mortgage Coach Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock, we're here to bring in incredible success stories of the industry and mastermind. So there's always more than one leader on this call. Today, it doesn't look like we have Mr. Todd Bookspan. So Deborah Bird is a regular moderator with Todd and I. What's up, Deborah?
What's up? He was in Disney.
Yeah, I know.
So
Todd
I'm representing for him with his, what is this limited edition Win by Noon shirt? So I'm representing him. Yeah, you got to check it out.
Shirt. That is my favorite Win by Noon shirt, guys. Go to Win by Noon store, represent. That is a limited edition, although I think it's selling out so well that they'll probably keep selling it. So we have a special guest today, Giuseppe. What's up, Giuseppe? I never try to say your last name. I'm going to give it a whirl. Battaglioli, or I had it in my head.
That was bad.
How do we?
Samsonite.
How do we say it?
Battaglioli.
Battaglioli. But I call him G for short.
That's fine.
Yeah. So he is not only one of the most successful loan officers in America, who consistently, what are you consistently the number of families you serve on a consistent basis?
I think if we take 2020 and 2021 out of the equation, somewhere around 300.
So over 300 of the 450 last year. So he knows how to close a lot of loans. That means he knows how to earn trust, respect, and deliver on promises at scale. But there's a lot. There are thousands of loan officers that could close that kind of volume in America, but there is only one that out of all the loan officers at experience.com, he's number one in terms of the number and how high the volume is. So I've got Kristen Messerly helping me open this. Kristen, how many total loan officers you guys have at experience.com?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is very impressive because we have over 40,000 loan officers on the platform. And yeah, Giuseppe was number one on that, on overall rating of customer satisfaction. So huge performance.
Yeah, it's so uncommon, guys, that someone can do that. And Kristen, before we just spotlight Giuseppe and we ask him, okay, how do you do that? What do you think are the attributes that help you achieve this level of production and success? You and I just yesterday released the 2022 halftime report. Why don't you describe that a little bit? Because I want to make sure everyone that tunes into Mortgage Coach that you know about this report and that you know how to get value from this report. So Kristen, how would you frame it and what should they do?
Yeah, so we interviewed over 25 industry experts and did a bunch of additional research and then aggregated all of that information into this report. I am super excited about it. I think it's definitely the thing I'm most proud of creating probably in my career so far, mostly because it was really interesting to be able to hear from these people that are the absolute pros and hear their thoughts on what's cutting edge in terms of what's happening in the industry right now, and with us being at such a pivotal time in the industry, those insights were just really valuable. So we put this into 3 different sections of the report, one being data and trends. So just high level, here's what's happening in the industry, here's what's happening in the market, what you can expect over the next 6 to 18 months. And then we go into here's some strategic opportunities and then recommendations. And Giuseppe was actually in there. I think it was in opportunities or recommendations, but just on talking about, measuring beyond service and measuring beyond just production and talking about service metrics and satisfaction. So anyway, but yeah, very, very excited to release the report and encourage you all. Robert will put in a link to the report in the chat as well.
And I would also say, guys, I have created a lot of content over, to 2 decades where I've been a thought leader in the industry, interviewing people, posting on LinkedIn. There's nothing I've put more hours into and nothing that I'm more proud of. Kristen and I really worked hard to get the brutal reality, the facts. Some of those are not great facts, like rates going up 3% this first half of the year, but the amount of equity people have, some of them were really good facts that drive opportunity for mortgage industry leaders. And we also wrote this very intentionally for the C-suite executives that are making the decision for the entire company. And we wrote it very intentionally for loan officers and managers and coaches. And so we're super proud of it. We think it has a lot of value. Please check it out. It's pretty much everywhere on social media. It's the base camp is the Mortgage Coach blog. So you can find it on the blog at Mortgage Coach. Read it, share it. And I'm going to be doing some interviews on what, different people, what was their biggest takeaway and what's new. Like there are things that are missing from it. So check it out. All right, let's get it with Giuseppe. So Giuseppe, this first half of the call, I want to just know, to get the level of success that you have, both production and the reviews you have, what are the, call it the chapters of the book? What are some of the key concepts? And then we'll get all those, call it the checklist for our audience of how to do what you do. And then we'll drill down on those things in the second half. So what are your thoughts?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having me on. And I'm looking forward to actually downloading that State of the Mortgage Industry halftime report after we get off. I'm going to be on a plane later, so I can look forward to reading through that. So I didn't know I was in it. So thanks for adding me to it. So, before we started, obviously, right now it's just, things are hard. Things are harder right now. And I personally think it's really good when the industry goes through a hard time like this. This is going to be probably the third recession type cycle that I've seen. This is my 20th year doing this. And heard a quote actually just this morning at our sales meeting. That was Duke's women's basketball coach. I'm paraphrasing, but she said that we all just need to stop wishing things were easier. It never ever gets easier, period. We just have to get better at doing the hard stuff, and the spoils go to the ones that get really good at doing the hard stuff. And the people that are kind of waiting around for things to get easier are usually sitting on the bench. So in our industry, it's hard to, whether things are ramping up or a year like this, if you're going from 20 loans to 200 to 600 or building a team, or, this year going from 400 to maybe 200 loans, it's hard. It's always hard. But, I think we just have to surround ourselves with, good people at our company and our team in a community like this so that we can all learn from each other and just grow through it. And, as we know, as we go through cycles like this, people will get out of the business. There will be more, it'll be a smaller pie maybe for the next year or so, but, there'll be more opportunities to grow that. I just think of like the lessons of like just the past 18 months. Now, of course, the market is shifting, but the last 18 months, our competition was cash buyers, right? Like 25, 30% of the transactions were cash buyers. Well, they don't really need us if they're doing that. People getting 30 offers and things like that. So how did we adapt, right? We learned how to educate buyers and realtors on, appraisal gap, and that it doesn't mean that you have to bring more money to closing in most situations. And, one great thing that came out of it is that most companies, I know us for sure, and I think, a lot of companies have just learned how to move a lot quicker. Or now what came out of that is like, we can offer a 2-week closing, and no one's really breaking a sweat trying to do that, or a 2.5-week closing, which, just helps, is going to continue to help, and that'll become the new norm. So I think right now, before I kind of get into the process, the main shift, of course, is, the entire conversation went from covering appraisal gaps to, how do we make a home more attractive now, and how do we get a buyer more comfortable with the payments? Of course, temporary buy down. You guys have done a lot of great videos on that. And for a lot of realtors that maybe don't see as many transactions, right? Or a buyer who got totally burned out in the spring, making offers, always getting bid out, your 3% down payment, 5% down payment, your down payment assistance buyers, they need to get out there, because over the past month, every one of those buyers that's gone out there is pretty much getting an offer accepted, where they had zero shot for the last year, right? So it's our job, because we're seeing that, to educate, right? To get that data out to all our pre-approved buyers and the realtors and get them back into the game. Because I think the second half of the year could be really good because of that. Any thoughts on that?
So Giuseppe, I want to drill down real quick on education.
Yeah.
Because I think just about every loan officer I've ever talked to said, "Oh yeah, I'm an educator," and there is what I call transactional education, and where you're letting a family know what it's like to get pre-approved, and don't lose your job before the loan closes, don't buy a new car before the loan closes. There's call it transactional education, and I do want to make sure within the context of this call we talk about transactional education, but there's another kind of education around, hey, let me show you how to build wealth with real estate, or let me show you how to achieve whatever your goals are. And that is where Mortgage Coach is a part of that. So I do want to find out, when you think of borrower education, is it really just two pieces of the pie, transactional education and financial literacy, or build wealth with real estate, or financial freedom education, or are there other buckets of the pie from your position, so we can really build out the framework of what is a guy like you that does the kind of volume you do, has the kinds of review that you do, what are all the types of education you think about?
Yeah, so I think those are the two main buckets. How you go about that, it's just something that's constantly evolving, right, as technology evolves. But I was an early adopter of video. And so, I do a lot of videos, a ton of videos, and incorporate them into the process, right? So maybe from our very first email, when they schedule our discovery call, they're already getting a welcome video that talks about why it's important, why they were referred to us, and what our goal is for, to help them out. We'll have that discovery call right up front, and I'm doing all of those goals, dreams, right? I know it's referred to that. Right now, I feel like there's less people that are calling over the past couple months that are like, I'm ready to buy a house. There's more people that are calling that are like, is this the right time to buy a house? What's going on with the market and rates, and like, is the market going to crash? Should I wait? So there's a lot of that conversation was not part of the conversation just a few months ago, and it hasn't been for years. And so we have to adapt what we do and what we cover to kind of settle their fears, bring up data that can help them feel more comfortable moving forward, and so that we can get to the actual application piece. During that process, and I do have some like an email that goes out to clients that has different videos that I've done. So the last 2 years, it was like, check out our hottest videos, and they were all about appraisal gap and strategies surrounding that, and appraisal waivers and things like that. Now it's all about what's going on with the economy, and how does the Fed affect rates, and what happens to housing during a recession, things like that I've done more recently. And so they're getting, almost like a drip campaign. I use BombBomb. So when I get a new client and we have that first call, depending on their time frame, I have a series of videos that starts going out to them. So it could be, every 2 or 3 days if they're ready to buy now. It could be every month if they're a year out. Just to kind of stay on top of it and slowly start to educate them, because I feel like if you try and cram everything into like a 1-hour meeting, it can be really overwhelming. I experienced that, last year when like, okay, I have my script for my 1-hour meeting. I have my template that I use, but now like we're adding 20 minutes into it by talking just about appraisal gap, right? So, so now, that's been replaced, and now we're talking about this. So I think it's just important to try and get that message out different ways. So I use, plug and play. So I'm not very good at social media, so I decided to get some help there. And so, I do the videos, and they, we had a great meeting up front about that education is really my strong suit, both to buyers and realtors. At the end of the day, that just creates a better transaction overall because the buyer's educated and feeling confident. They know their numbers because we use the TCA. And they're easy to update for them on the weekends and things like that, or if they're considering an offer. And the agents, the feedback we get is like when they work with you, like they're walking through the house and they're looking at their phone and they know what their payment is going to be and how much money they need, and they're confident to be able to make an offer. And I think that makes all the difference, because at the end of the day, the realtors start to see, hey, this is way easier when they work with him, and that generates additional business down the road.
Cool. So much to unpack from that. Want to make sure everybody heard the fact that he's given the total cost analysis to everyone. He's using plug and play SM to help amplify his social media content in his videos. He's using experience.com to help manage all those reviews and to use those in sales and marketing. And he's using a lot of video. You've heard the call out for Bomb Bomb. So remember, community, this is a mastermind. If you've got questions, whether you're watching this on Facebook or you're watching this on YouTube, put your questions and comments. I'll come to you in a minute, Deborah. But Kristen, any questions you have or any comments you want to pull out of what Giuseppe has said so far?
Yeah, this has just been so good. But I did want you to clarify, like you said that, or just the process behind it, because you said that you start dripping out videos whenever a lead comes in. Is that right?
After I have that first phone call.
The first phone call. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to cram everything into that one phone call. You have kind of and then you're dripping out these kinds of things, like what the economy's doing, what housing does in a recession, that type of stuff following that. Is that right?
Yeah, whatever kind of applies to the current, market. Touching on just really quickly on experience.com, it seems like a lot of our referrals, I've kind of worked with the agents. It seems to work better if we do like an intro email, right? So then we're replying to that right away. And on that, it already starts to point to our reviews further down, learn a little bit more about our team. And so, it happens every month that someone's like, well, I was considering, maybe talking to a few people, but I just took a peek at those reviews. I'm like, I don't think I need to talk to anyone else unless your rates are, crazy high or something like that. So that's one way that we use that kind of right up front to get that out. And, in a way that I feel like is helpful in shortening that sales cycle for us and getting us connected with the buyer.
Yeah, well, it builds confidence. A lot of the research I've done with next gen buyers say that lack of confidence and skepticism are one of the top challenges they have, and lack of education when they start the home buying process. So I feel like that what you're doing really solidifies all of that, builds the trust, builds confidence, gives them education. So that's really great.
Thanks.
Deborah, any comments that you have, you want to make sure we get called out, or any questions you have for Giuseppe?
Well, I just want to make sure that everybody heard the fact that in order to do the volume that Giuseppe is doing, that's a lot of families that he's talking to and serving. The video helps you maintain the brand, where if you're having an off day, or maybe you have a big team, you have lots of assistants, if you have those transactional or process built-in videos along the way, so that it's your best explanation, where you're crossing every T, dotting every I of here's what to expect once your disclosures are sent, or here's a video that could be automated through your CRM as soon as a file goes to underwriting or is conditionally approved. Imagine having a video that's always you, even though it may not be you that's managing that part of the workflow. If you have, LP1s, LP2s, or different production partners, it will still feel like it's you, and you're giving them that service where, again, that video creates the most amount of influence and they can feel your warmth and energy. And so I just want to make sure that everybody heard that he builds that in his process, which I think is very intentional, to make sure that it stays consistent and your service doesn't get diluted when you have so many families that you are helping. So great job, Giuseppe.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, one-timing things, right? Like same thing with, 20 years ago when I was like, gosh, I've answered this question like 7 times. I think I should build an email template, right, for it. Well, video is the same way, but, people, especially on phones right now, are more likely to watch a video than have to scroll and scroll. And the things we cover are complicated, right? I mean, it's usually not a 1-sentence answer, and so it gets a little cumbersome to do it via text. Another way that I use BombBomb is, I use it to reply to a client's email with a video, even not a video that I've done a process video where everyone's getting the same one, but just a one-off video to them so I can address them by name. And doing that, they have a little widget now, and I'm like not big on technology, but you click on it and you shoot the video. There's never grammar you have to deal with. There's never typos, right? And they get to see you as a person and smile. And like the feedback you get from that, like, oh, great, hey, love the video, like, thanks for the reply. And replying to a question with the video can take you 30 seconds to a minute. And if you have to type it out, it's always going to take 3, 4, 5 times longer. And then you got to go back and, proof it and things like that. So that's like one of my favorite things to do, is to reply to just general emails with a video.
And guys, that's why I've used video really since it came out, is it was time savings. And I'm ADD and dyslexic, and I've never misspelled a word in a video. So I can communicate more effectively, I can communicate more accurately. And guys, in today's world, you can communicate in a digital way, which is super important. So we've got a few minutes until halftime. I do know I want to get to this message from Marina. And Marina, great question. She said, could you share what's your follow-up process for clients that are 6+ months out? So before we just jump on that question, know that I'm going to get to that question, Giuseppe, but I want to unpack all the chapters for your story of lots of production, 5 stars, education. Guys, I hope we all heard it. There's 2 categories. There is the transactional loan officer education, and there is the help clients hit their freedom point education. Like, people don't get loans because they want loans. They get loans to get homes that they can pay off someday. They can either be debt free or they can have enough money to pay it off, called their freedom point. So he's delivering 2 types. What would be the other? Let's just say there were 3 chapters of that book. What would be the other 3 chapters, Giuseppe? And you don't have to describe each of them in detail. Just give us the chapters.
Well, I mean, so before COVID, the goal was always to get everyone into the office for a meeting, and face-to-face meeting. And of course, that went away. And, now it's naturally morphed into a Zoom meeting. And even though I've done a few face-to-face meetings, when clients are given the option, pretty much everyone chooses Zoom, and that's fine. That works great. I've gotten good at it over the last couple of years. But really, that face-to-face meeting or Zoom meeting, I feel like that's the point that has made the biggest difference in my business. That's where, of course, you're going through the process of what it's like to buy a home, the things not to do. We cover their approval parameters, answer all their questions, and then at that point, we're doing the introduction to the TCA for the first time. So I kind of go over, here's the goals you shared with me on your call. Here's some parameters I have from when we got all your documents. And then here's the solutions, right? And we jump into the TCA. So we'll review the strategies. Usually, at that point, I'm covering, points and fees. So I start usually with 2 columns. So I say, here's the decisions you get to make. You get to decide how much you're putting down in case they have flexibility there. You get to decide how we structure the mortgage insurance. You get to decide how much you want to pay for the rate or in fees. And so I'll start with one of those and compare no points and 1 point. We look at the monthly savings, we look at the fees, we do the math, scroll down, right? Look at the analysis over 5 years, whatever time period they're telling me, and they can make their own decision. That's when I usually, for years, have been going on to like either Optimal Blue, I'll pull it up and show people exactly what pricing looks like. And then I'll pull up the spaceship company. Can I say that? I don't know. Mortgage company, big behemoth. I'll pull that up and just to show them, hey, look, if you get a quote from them, you have to go like 5 menus deep, but you can see right here, this is with like 2 discount points. That's what they're assuming, right? They're in the lead generation business. They want the phone to ring. If I was in that business, I would advertise rates the same way, because the lowest rate on an ad probably is going to get the phone call. But if you don't want to pay, right, I'll have Optimal Blue up. If you don't want to pay, $20,000 in closing costs, in additional closing costs, then we have these other options too. And usually the rate that they're quoting with 2 points, we have a better rate in Optimal Blue with 2 points, right? So I think that more than anything completely shuts down shopping after that point. So the number of, and like I've told our team and people at our company this year, in this environment, with rates moving higher as much as they have, I've lost 1 transaction that I did a Zoom meeting with to rate, and that's it. Like everyone else, like it just never comes up again. So it's amazing, because I know everything I'm seeing is like everyone's getting shot more, everyone's getting shot more. I'm like, well, this Zoom meeting must be what, but that section of the Zoom meeting where we cover that must be very beneficial, because it just never comes up again. So that's been a big aha for me, especially this year. So I'll take those 2 columns, right? And like, okay, so we decided maybe not paying points is the best thing for you. Now we're going to look at 5% down or 10% down. Why we look at that and then take out the other 2 columns. That way we're kind of going through those decisions they get to make, and they feel at the end of that very educated, like they know what's going on. We have an idea how we're going to type up the pre-approval. We'll send it out, and I tell them you're going to get this link with the pre-approval. This is how we're going to relay numbers to you going forward. So if you see a home you like, on a Saturday and you want to make an offer, just reach out to us. There's always someone on our team that's covering weekends. And we can update the TCA for you so that you know exactly what it's going to look like payment-wise, down payment-wise on this house. You know the numbers before you even make the offer.
So I know before this call is over, I'm going to want you to share one of your TCAs and go through it. Don't do that yet.
Yeah.
I do want to call out the process he just walked through. Reminded me of an interview I did with Denise Donahue, Deborah's twin sister. And she has a very similar process. And the name of the interview is How Denise Donahue Uses Mortgage Coach. And I also did a call with her and Jeremy Forcier around, can't remember what it was called. It was a advice. I'll find it and I'll put a link down below. But I would highly recommend every loan officer re-listen to what Giuseppe just described. If you really want to nail this topic and have the ultimate conversion with the least amount of rate shopping, listen to that one with Denise and the one with Jeremy. I'll look it up in a minute when I'm not talking, and I'll put a link down below. And here's the deal, guys. If you do this, the loan officers that do this are completely changing the game on every other loan officer they compete with. Because if you heard him talk about it, he is not only selling solutions to problems, so he's not just getting them a great rate and selling a program. He's like problem, solution, strategy. And it's visual and it's personal and it's local. And then he's also addressing the rate in a very proactive way. And he's also got a lot of customer reviews. I mean, guys, it's just this perfect mortgage experience that's going to create this customer for life. And guys, the proof is in the pudding. That was another takeaway from the report Kristen and I did. And personally, one of my biggest takeaways after 25 interviews, countless hours of writing, thinking, studying, is that the industry needs to go beyond just measuring how many loans did you close, what's your volume. Like, those are important metrics, but just as important is what's your conversion rate? What is your profitability? That is your score as a salesperson. And then what is your consumer scoring you? That's what the consumer is scoring you. Like, if we celebrated and measured all of those metrics, conversion, profitability, customer satisfaction, every loan officer in America would close more loans, be more profitable, and the mortgage companies that institutionalize that would gain market share, be more profitable, and crush it. And really, Giuseppe just described it in like 5 to 10 minutes, what to do. So guys, we are at halftime. I'm going to throw it to you, Kristen, comments, questions, and I'm going to bring it to you, Deborah, and then we'll get to your question, Marina, and anyone else that wants to throw in a question. Kristen.
I'm just absolutely amazed and excited by everything you've been talking about, especially on education, going through the Zoom meeting. I feel like a framework I talk about a lot around trust building is having safety, transparency, choice, collaboration, and empowerment. And you like do all of it in that first, or in that Zoom meeting. But I wanted to ask, beyond it sounds like you've got a really strong process at the beginning, and as soon as you are connecting with them, your response using video response to emails, that kind of stuff. How about after the Zoom meeting to closing? Like you talked about having a really short cycle, and I'm assuming there's a lot of automation and technology that's in place to create some efficiencies, but is there anything that you do to put buyers at ease? Like, do you have check-ins, or how do you, is there anything around closing that you'd like to share at that end of the cycle with the customer?
Yeah, I think, so we use Flowify for document gathering, and also like the milestone notifications that go through that. So all of those notifications that go out, they give you some generic templates, and you can stick with that. You can make your own. I got rid of all the templates completely and just put video, so they have to watch the video. So those were all kind of one-touch videos that I did a few years ago. And I think, from once they're pre-approved, but both the agents and the buyers know that we're available, right? So, and part of being available, isn't always like you have to reply immediately or get on a phone call immediately. I think it's just letting them know that you're there, right? So everyone knows you have a life. So if I get, I'll share one quick story and then just go back to that. This has to do with Calendly that we use to schedule our phone calls. So when I first started using that, I was of the mindset, and that was probably 5 years ago, I was of the mindset, like probably many people, where like if a client emails you at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday, like it's probably really urgent, right? And so you're like, okay, I'll call them back first thing in the morning. But the template I changed my weekend template to is like, hey, we're excited to help, blah, blah, blah. And I can share any of these that you want. Here's a link to schedule our discovery call, and talks about our team. And then in like yellow highlighted bold, it's like, hey, if this is an urgent matter that you want to chat this weekend, let me know and we can figure something out, right? And so when I started doing that, if you got, as an example, 10 clients that emailed you over the weekend, that would be really rare. I don't think that's ever happened, but let's say that was like one person, maybe it's urgent. Everyone else that's wanting to get the process started, like if they didn't just, it's not urgent, it's just when they remembered to email you, they're like, oh crap, it's 9 o'clock on Saturday, my realtor's been telling me to call this lender, so I'm going to send them an email, right? Everyone else, the other 9 people, they scheduled for the week out, like a normal business hour phone call. So, but in my mind, before I started using that, I was like, oh, these are all 10 urgent, and then it like starts to play, games in your mind, and you're all stressed because you're like, work-life balance and all that. So, so that was a big epiphany for me. So that's kind of evolved into like, if someone reaches out, it's okay to like text them back or give them a quick phone call and, introduce yourself and be like, hey, I'm like at my son's baseball game, but I can give you a call back in about 2 hours. Will that work? And the sooner you can make that call, I think, the better it is, because they're like, man, this person is on top of it, but I'm not like sitting down doing an application at that time, right? And so then they'll reply back, hey, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. That's awesome. Yeah, that works great. And then I'll send them a loan application. So, if you want to get a head start and you want us to move this file through the system quickly, it would be great if this can be completed before our phone call. And that kind of tends to start moving things, faster. So I think it's getting back to them in a timely manner, whatever it is, but just to let them know that you got the message and you're on it, instead of like having to maybe wait an hour or 2 hours until you're in front of a computer and then reply. That's been one thing that I feel like has led to very good reviews.
Definitely. Quick responsiveness is one of the biggest things that I've heard around customer experience. And you have processes in place to allow yourself to have the gaps in response if needed over weekends or whatever, but also, quick responses. I love what you talked about around using BombBomb videos and that kind of thing too. So that's great.
Also,
Well, just
go
ahead.
Go ahead, Deborah. No,
I was
it's
going
your
to say
turn.
to piggyback on that, I had gone to a conference and they talked about how customer satisfaction, the biggest pain point was the uncertainty. So they talked about Uber, and even at, when you go to airports, the thing with Uber, they were saying wasn't necessarily like super innovative, other than the fact that it eliminated the uncertainty, because now you could watch a car on a map. And before, when you would order a taxi and it would take a little bit longer, you just didn't know where was the taxi at. And your brain goes to all these different places of creating this story, when as soon as estimated time, so same thing with the airports, as soon as they started to put estimated wait time for you to be able to get through check through, it's like the satisfaction rate increase. I loved what you said about the response and just letting people know, hey, I'm at a ball game. I'll get back to you, first thing Monday. But I also just wanted to highlight that there was a post we made for Modern Mortgage Summit, and it was a quick little recap of Dave's how to present like a modern mortgage advisor. And in order to be game ready, everything that Giuseppe's talking about is how he goes to present. And so go back to that post. It's the circle post that I'm referring to. And it starts with questions for personalization and then the total cost analysis for value. So take a screenshot of that post, maybe share it at your next sales meeting that you do, and make sure that you're presenting like a pro. And, even rewatch that webinar we did. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, Dave. I'm not sure when it was, but that's a big part of the satisfaction as well, is making sure you're game ready, guys.
Love it. So I did put a link to that video with Denise that I told everybody about. And I actually, the way I found it is I went to the YouTube page and I went to All Time Best. I knew it was on that playlist. And guys, it's not only on that playlist, it's like number 4. It's called Becoming a Financial Wizard with Jeremy and Denise. Really want to recommend, every single video that's on this All Time Best is pure gold. Now, it's a lot, I'm not saying, hey, you got to watch it all. But if you want to see some of the all-time best, you'll notice that last week's video with Super Bowl champion Gary Brackett, who was the co-captain of the Indianapolis Colts in 2007. I added that to one of the best all-time calls we've ever done. But that call with Denise, it's number 4. Check it out. Put it in homework. So we're a little past, we're almost at the 4th quarter. And I want to make sure that lesson that you gave around problem solving and giving strategies to clients and how you're showing rate variables, I want to make sure we give a micro lesson on that. So Giuseppe, if you could share your screen with the TCA, and let's make sure we check that off the box. And then I promise, Marina, we're going to get your question answered. Anyone else that posts a question, we'll have some time to get those before closing out. But if you could just walk us through that so we could hear it and see it visually for like five-ish minutes.
Yeah, no problem. I can walk through a few. So one of the things on, with rates, the markets, of course, have been a little weird this year, where they've moved up so quickly that sometimes if you're pricing out loans, especially on the weekends, getting someone who's out there trying to make an offer, and just touch on weekends. Like, I'm not a huge fan of working weekends, but it is part that especially I think over the last 18 months with appraisal gap, like that was some complicated math, right? If we're going to add mortgage insurance and things like that, that needs to be done by us so that the buyer can make an offer, right? And know plan A if it appraises, plan B if it doesn't appraise. good with both, make the offer, write this big of an appraisal gap, right? That's something that we can't leave that up to anyone else except the lender to do that. So, but with rates having moved up quickly, right now there can be a pretty big difference maybe between a no points rate and a 1 point rate. And so instead of doing no points and 1 point, and we're still having the same conversation about whether it makes sense to do that, but I've added something else on the TCA, some verbiage where if it says 0 points, I'm always putting in a low cost loan as right next to that. And then with 1 point, I'm showing it as an advertised rate. And this one is actually not that big of a difference. It's only 0.25% on this jumbo loan that went under contract this past weekend. But sometimes it's like, I don't know, right now, I remember the last FHA loan I priced out, it was like 0.75% difference in rate between no points and 1 point. So I want to make sure that it's branded in their mind that, hey, this is the advertised rate. This option on the right is the advertised rate. And so same conversation, I just kind of started throwing that in there this year, and it's worked out really well because people will just reply and they're like, hey, I think we want to go with the advertised rate, and just we'll lock it in, right? So that's one way that one thing that I changed on that. Right now I feel like the biggest thing right now is just buy downs, right? What everyone is focusing on is buy downs as the market has shifted. So this is one that I sent over to this client last night. So she is making an offer on a condo, and both the agent and her are kind of like, so what, like, I think we can get some seller credit. Like, what can we do? And this is so different from a month and a half ago when she got pre-approved, right? So, we have this option here. This is what she might be doing, 485 with 15% down. And I said, well, how much of a credit can you negotiate, right? If you can negotiate a $3,000 credit, which is pretty low on this purchase price, we can do what's called a 1-0 buy down, right? For the first year, you get this payment at 5% instead of 6%, and you save $260 a month. Okay, if you feel like you can get a larger credit, kind of speaking to the agent, then we can do these middle two columns here. We call the 2-1 buy down, right? And that would show them first year's at 4%, second year's at 5%. You're looking at $500 of payment savings the first year. So it's like buying a 485 house for a 385 price, right? And then we know that with the understanding that realistically within 2 years, we're probably going to have you refinance into something better. But let's say that's not the case. I think this is a safer option than an adjustable mortgage, because if rates move up forever, right, then you'll be thrilled with your 6% rate. If they move lower, then we'll do a no cost refinance for you, and end up somewhere between probably 4 and 6 at the end of the day. So I sent that out last night, and then this morning I got an email from the agent, and she's like, hey, Giuseppe, you're the best, always going above and beyond to educate our clients. So I'm like, that's the kind of email that makes me so happy. And she said, yeah, Adrian and I will be looking at some homes this afternoon. There's 42 new listings that meet her criteria, so we're probably going to make an offer on it this weekend. And so now they know, and the agent knows, like, okay, what are we thinking? This kind of a seller credit or this kind of a seller credit? We'll do a quick update. It's set up. So because I'm traveling today and going to be out of the office this weekend. So the guy who's covering for me, Ryan, is going to know already what we discussed, right? There's notes in our system. It's not going to be this big complicated puzzle he needs to figure out. So this, doing a lot of those right now, taking all the people that are pre-approved and all their TCAs were all about how to cover appraisal gap and changing them all over to, this kind of a structure.
So Giuseppe, a couple things. One, are you willing to either make a copy of this, but give me a link so that within this micro lesson, we've got samples of these 2 TCAs. Can you get me a link after the meeting? Okay, so we'll get those. And could you scroll down to the bottom real quick? I want to make sure everyone sees how they've integrated Mortgage Coach all the way to the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
with experience.com. So you'll notice that his reviews, 1,925 reviews, with this most recent one being a 4.9. So guys, when you're delivering advice and you notice he's solving problems, affordability problems, getting a deal into escrow problems, creating clarity for a buyer to make a winning offer, he's also got a breadcrumb to his reviews. Do you call this out, or do you just send the link and it's there? Or is there any strategy around how you leverage the experience and mortgage coach integration?
I actually have not called it out, because we're kind of doing that up front, and on our very first email we're kind of pointing to the reviews, but it's a good reminder there. Reading this one, I think it came in overnight. Like, see, this is like a perfect thing about weekends, right? Like, I guarantee you I'm not sitting on my computer all weekend long, but if you read this, the client kind of felt like maybe I was. I probably updated, I don't know, 3 or 4 TCAs for them over a couple months on a weekend, maybe, if they're going to consider making an offer. And so, I mean, it's good. It's great, that they called that out, but I think it's just having some of those systems to be able to reply high touch, right, without having to feel like you're chained to your desk all weekend long. Even though there were weekends of this year that we were chained to our desk all weekend long. I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
If you can stop sharing your screen real quick, I want to ask you 2 more questions, and I'm going to bring it to Kristen and Deborah. And this came out in an interview with Jeremy Forcier a couple weeks ago. And I'm wondering if you've done any seller credits like this. This was a house that was listed for $700,000. The buyer wanted to pay $630,000, and the listing agent said, "Don't bother. Like we will not counter that. That's not even in the ballpark." And Jeremy finessed with the buyer and the seller that, hey, what if the seller did a 3-point buy down, and 2 of those points would go to buy down the rate, and 1 of those points would go towards reducing cash to close. And he was able to compromise with a seller, with a pretty significant seller funded buy down. It was up to 3 points. Have you seen anything like this, or what are your thoughts on this strategy?
Yeah, that's great. I had a 3rd TCA here ready to go that I've done some videos around, for both buyers and realtors and and listing agents, because now they're kind of in a position where the sellers are like, hey, what's going on? Why are we reducing the price? So this one is right. So we have, again, this first column on the left is the home's listed at $550,000. If you offer $550,000, pay 5% down, normal loan. Okay, so then I figured how much money we would need for a 2-1 buy down. It was about $12,000. So I said, okay, well, the average buyer and realtor are going to go in because they're not used to thinking about these strategies. Maybe realtors that were working 10 years ago, 15 years ago are used to it, but no one that got into business since then has ever really heard of, seller credits and buy downs, right? Except for maybe a couple $1,000s for inspection items. So what if instead of offering $550,000, you go in and you lowball the offer at $538,000? It's only going to save you, the buyer, $70 a month, right? So then what are a couple different ways that we can have a much bigger bang for the buck for the buyer? So one is, let's say we take offer $550,000, take $12,000 in a seller credit, and just use that to pay points, buy down the rate from 0.75%, from 5.8 to 5.125, right? Now the buyer's saving $245 a month, and they have that lower rate forever. So if someone is like of the mindset like, well, there's no guarantees rates are going to move lower. I know you're telling me that, but I'd rather just go with this. Like, great, then you can use that money and pay $550,000 instead of $538,000, and use the $12,000 to buy down the rate, save $245 a month, and you're good. And then when people want to have a much bigger effect, or maybe this can be used by a listing agent who's trying to market a home, is take the $12,000 seller credit, still offer $550, but that $12,000 is enough to fund a 2-1 buy down. So now year one, the buyer's paying $600 less per month. Year two, they're going to be paying $300 less per month. And then of course, years 3 through 30, it's going to go back to that 5.875 rate. And doing that, again, starts to make the buyer really think seriously about buying the house. And it's like buying a 550 home for $400,000, 425, right? And with the understanding that, again, we're going to, if rates move up forever, you're going to be thrilled with the 5.875. More realistically, they're going to probably move down, and then we'll do a refinance for you into a better loan. So just laying it out that way, I think, similar to Jeremy's, it's like, why would you ever go in and just offer less and not take a seller credit? Like, that makes no mathematical sense to do that.
I love that. And add this to the requested link. So if you can send us 3 links, and this has been so good that I'm going to have my team make a micro lesson out of what you just delivered, so that how to solve problems, how to deliver strategies. And we will put this on our website under current total cost analysis strategies. So Kristen, any comments or questions? And then I'm going to come to you, Deborah, and then audience, we'll make sure we get whatever you got.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time. This has been so good. I just wanted to ask, you're clearly killing it when it comes to customer experience. And you're obviously adding a lot of value to agents as well, seller and listing agents. How do you interact with them? And is that where, like, I'm sure you're getting a lot of referrals based on past customers, but are you specifically asking for referrals, or are you just naturally getting them? And how are you interacting with referral partners like realtors as well to generate those referrals?
Yeah, so I mean, with realtors in general, what I've been doing for a long time is just outside of just the normal communication that comes up, as part of a file. I just have some database reminders to check in, right? Maybe my platinum realtors every 2 weeks, a text, a phone call, a graphic they can share on social media. Thanks, Deb. And then maybe some agents once a month, maybe if I have some superstar agents that I know they have like 2 amazing lenders already, like I have, a good feeling that maybe eventually that, something will get dropped, right? So maybe I'm staying in touch with them. I actually just made a phone call like that this week where I was like, just want to make sure everything's still great with so-and-so, it's been a few months since we spoke, and that's it, hope you're doing well. So staying in front of them that way. And then I took something from one of Denise's calls earlier this year, I think, about kind of a Friday email, old school email going out. So I'm doing that through BombBomb. It's usually videos. And it's just like, Friday tip from Giuseppe with whatever the topic du jour is, and that goes out, and that's generated some emails back from agents that, are on the list, but maybe we've never worked together. Maybe they were a listing agent, on some deal, and asking some questions like, how can you do this appraisal gap thing? Like, I don't get it. Like, how come no other lender's talking about this? Things like that. So I'm doing that regularly every Friday. And as far as referrals, like I totally suck at that, actually. I was just talking to a couple people in my office, like I'm really not good at like pushing for referrals. I mean, I ask for them, and just the same way that I ask, for, I tell them as soon as we're locked in, as part of my emails, like, hey, my goal is to earn a 5-star review. If at any point during this process, things are not feeling that way, please reach out to me directly so we can fix it. But I'm not very good at asking for referrals, but I'm working on that.
That sounds like you're doing a lot. I think
I do get a lot of referrals, repeat clients,
Yeah. If I were your customer, I would want to make sure that I am sending so much business your way. Like, that I would be so passionate about the experience. So I think there's some automation actually with experience.com that we could set up for you too, that automatically ask for referrals and things like that. But yeah, I'm sure you're getting it anyway.
Thank you.
I just want to point out this book again. I know I've talked about it before, and I put a link in the mortgage coach community where I actually read chapter 2. And guys, Hooked on Phonics didn't work for me either, but it's one of those that you can just listen when you're on a walk or at the gym. And it's a quick, I want to say it's like 15 minutes, but it's the second chapter of the book. And it's so good about never losing a customer again and how to create that experience. And it was an example using a dentist and how she, if she could do it in that industry, then you can do it too, which, some people may argue getting a mortgage feels like getting a cavity filled with a dentist, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be that way. So thank you for sharing those links, Giuseppe. Those who are listening to this, whether you're in, Facebook or YouTube later, can I please see y'all's TCAs on TCA Tuesday, where pick one of the links, recreate it, go one to many. I want to see them. So make sure you tag us. I want to do a better job showcasing those of you in the community who are showcasing your TCAs, leveraging social. So pick one of these that Giuseppe just shared, and y'all take action.
Do you want me to put the links like in this chat or email them to someone?
Whatever. I mean, I think it would be good to have them in the chat, and then I can get them and put them in the group. But I want to actually give you a gift, Giuseppe, because I've interviewed Jeremy Forcier on how he's getting referrals from current clients in his pipeline. And I guarantee I'm going to play a little 2-minute video, guys. It's in our YouTube channel. And I want to get Giuseppe's thoughts on this idea. But check this out, guys. This is a video I did a year or two ago. And this is just a little less than 2-minute clip. So check this out. And then I want to ask your thoughts on this, Giuseppe, and then we'll wrap up today's call. Check it out, everybody.
I recently spent a full day with Jeremy Forcier and 4 other top producers. I want you to see a 1-minute highlight from that full day. It could help you close at least one extra loan this coming month. And for those of you who have a lot of current clients in your pipeline, it could be 4, 5, 6 extra loans next month. Check it out.
So Jeremy, how many referrals are you getting from your existing pipeline of loans?
So this month I have 8. So those are people we're currently working with that we have not closed yet.
Got it. So out of your pipeline of active loans, and what are you sending them? What's the email?
It's a simple email that says, so if they say something positive, it's a response email. It's not me sending the email cold. They say, hey, thank you so much. Like they get a clear to close email from me, an automated one, and they say, oh my God, we're excited. I will hit them back with the email that just says, we love helping you, okay, exclamation mark, right? Can you help me, question mark, new paragraph. I do everything in voice text format, new paragraph. And then it says, I want to work with more people I like, in all capitals, I like, new paragraph. Can you please introduce me to 2 people that you think I should know that I can help in the future? Thanks. That's it.
So that was 1 minute, one idea, and Jeremy's only been doing it for a couple of months, 8 referrals.
So I've gone back with Jeremy on that, and that is still like the referrals he gets are his highest conversion because he keeps track of all that, and it's also his number one source of business. What are your thoughts on that idea?
My thoughts that it's great, and that I do that actually.
You do that.
Yeah, I watched that video whenever it came out, a couple of years ago, and I just came up with my own version. So it's just an email signature called, hey, reply to good feedback. And whenever it comes across, I just copy that. Yeah, I'm telling you, like everything I've
so it does work.
Learned was from you, Dave.
Oh my God! So you do get. Well, you had earlier asked, well, I really don't do that. And like, okay, you do that.
I guess.
I guess I do. He's systemizing, guys.
It's like, there's some people that are wired more of like a sales mentality that like on every phone call are like having that conversation. Who do you know that wants to buy a house or whatever? And that's not me. So yeah, I do it. It's more passively, I guess, through emails and things like that.
So guys, by the way, did you just see what I saw? He's got all these templates, he's got all these systems, and they are just consistent. Like, why is Giuseppe? You can heard him. Oh, I'm not that sales guy. I'm not that guy that asks all the time, but he's got these systems. He watches the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. He gets ideas, he implements them, and he does them consistently. So, Kristen, any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, this is just so good. I am so excited to have been part of this. And again, congratulations on being our #1 top performer at experience.com.
Thank you.
Right on. And Deborah,
that helps with that for sure.
and Deborah, as a representative of Win by Noon here with that badass Win by Noon shirt, any ghost of Todd Bookspan closing thoughts as we wrap this up?
Oh Lord, that is some pressure. Just you heard Giuseppe say that he didn't think he was doing something, yet he actually was, because he had watched and learned from someone else, from a video and Mortgage Coach. You can get a doctorate degree if you study the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. So if you guys have not hit the bell notification to have the alarms go off as soon as there's a new video drop, then action number 1, make sure you do that. And when you invest your time, create the systems and process so that you too can have multiple families that you serve all year with never diluting the brand. So that would be my best Todd Bookspan Win by Noon wrap up.
All right. Hey, Giuseppe, I'm super grateful for the time you spent to share all your secrets of success. Always love having you in the community. Everyone, I hope you got value from this. I hope you take action from this. Be sure to give this a like if you got value. Make sure you check out the blog post that Kristen and I released, the 2022 halftime report. If you do have a favorite takeaway from that, share it in our Facebook group. I'm going to be, well, Kristen and I really all month long, we're going to be calling out ideas. We're going to be releasing a few more articles in Housing Wire. And our whole goal is, like, let's turn this opportunity in the market. It's a complicated market. It's a fast moving market. If you follow Mortgage Coach, guys, we're going to turn this into a competitive advantage. You're going to gain market share. So have a great weekend, y'all. Thanks again, Giuseppe.
Let's
call
really
this a
good at
wrap.
the hard stuff. See you guys.
Bye.
Closing thoughts, get good at the hard stuff.